When you're trying to build a believable, deep universe, Star Wars Galaxies still sets the bar. One of the best parts of SWG was the way the universe was interconnected. The physicalized, unique nature of every object in the game told a story and tied you to a place and a person. Star Citizen 1.0 is chasing that feeling with items you can hold, lose, recover, and brag about. The moment gear becomes meaningful, the economy comes alive. This is part 1 of a series on how Galaxy's design decisions are shaping Star Citizen's future. Today we'll break down why CIG chose physicalized unique items, and why that decision unlocks crafting, scarcity, and an economy with real teeth. If you want grounded design breakdowns that go deeper, hit subscribe, join the crew, and let's fly. I've seen the take from Salty Mike that baking skins into guns is a step backward. On the surface, it's a fair concern. A lot of games let you pick any skin you own and apply it freely. It's convenient and familiar, and it works in Fortnite or Call of Duty where the item underneath has no intrinsic value and gets replaced constantly. In those ecosystems, the skin is the value. The item is disposable. World of Warcraft goes another way with transmog. You hunt the best in slot item for your class, then dress it however you want. It's clean, but those items are eternal. Pay a gold repair bill and they last forever. Rarity exists, but one named item performs exactly like any other copy. It divorces look from object and keeps items interchangeable. In the Star Citizen we're playing today, that perspective mostly holds. With a few exceptions like contested zone drops or Wicklow's oddities, weapons and armor are functionally identical. A Morozov chess piece is a Morozov chess piece, so layering skins on top of that base feels fine. But Star Citizen 1.0 is aiming past that model. Physicalized items, crafting, and decay are the backbone. They tie aesthetics and performance to materials and labor. They make logistics part of the gameplay. In turn, this creates loss, recovery, provenance, and the kind of drama people tell stories about. Focus only on baked-in skins and you miss the broader system those choices unlock. That's why reversible skins don't fit a physicalized world. When everything is a toggle, you sever the link between the object and the resources it came from, as well as the name of the crafter who made it and the player market that values it. You also remove risk entirely from the equation. If a rare look lives only as a UI state, nothing in the world can threaten it or give it a past. So what does that look like in practice? In CIG's universe design, every weapon or ship part in every crate is a thing in the world. You can find it or craft it, trade it or stash it, lose it, or even steal it. That shift to physicalized items creates gameplay and stories. The gap between equipping a menu skin and tracking down a limited run rifle with a rare look at a remote moon outpost is the difference between taking a screenshot and creating a memory. That's content. Here's a simple loop. You lose a prized rifle with great stats and a rare paint in a PvP fight. The other team pulls it from your body, notices the finish, and flips it at a station. A friend spots the listing on a local terminal and pings you. Now you've got a lead and a choice. Buy it back quietly, set a sting, let it go and order a second run from the original crafter. That chain only exists if the item is real. This was the intent Galaxies chased, but it never fully realized it with true loss. You couldn't loot other players. For a stretch, item decay was the only way to lose access to something. It was 90% of the way there. If you've never played Galaxies, this is why that game produced famous crafters. Players that wanted the best items weren't just buying any old blaster, they were buying a brand, and they knew which smith had the good ore and which architect could squeeze more efficiency out of a harvester. Reputation sat on the item and followed the maker, and communities formed around that gravity. I still remember the best weaponsmith on my server, and his name was Han Over Fist. That's the identity an MMO needs if you want a world instead of a theme park. Star Citizen is picking up that baton with modern tech, so those same ideas hit harder and stick longer. In Star Citizen, that will show up as blueprints, research, and the quality of the resources you bring to your crafting station. Get it right, and you're starting to create desirable gear. For some players, that'll be their entire gameplay loop and reason for playing. Crafting is a rewarding profession that could potentially make serious money in the game. But physicalization only pays off if items enter and leave the world in believable ways. Two things can make that happen. First is quality. Materials aren't identical. A batch of ore from one moon will craft differently than a batch from somewhere else. That changes the stats of the end product and gives explorers and industrial players a reason to range far from the safe areas. It gives organizations reasons to attempt area denial and engage in conflict. Locations will ultimately matter. The second is where. Gear that never wears out kills a market. When items degrade and repairs consume resources, the economy cycles. You get reasons to craft backups, to stock parts, and to think twice before you bring your rarest kit into a desperate mission. Loss is the engine of value, and recovery is the story that follows. Repair is the wild card. I'm assuming at this point that eventually items will break beyond repair based on the screenshots we've seen from the CitizenCon presentations. There's an integrity rating on the items they've shown. As long as repair never completely refills those points, then all items will eventually cycle out of the verse. That was SWG's design until anti-decay kits and eventual removal of decay altogether broke the economy. Right now, if you are extremely careful and lucky with bugs, one set of armor and a weapon could last you your entire Star Citizen career, and that's clearly not the end goal. A universal skin system makes skins free to swap and free from consequence. That's convenient, but convenience flattens gameplay. If paints and finishes exist as objects, you can also do cool things with them. Maybe CIG borrows a page from late-era Galaxies where pledge store items could be converted into craftable blueprints. If you bought the item in the store, then maybe you can use the default item immediately. But invest in materials and skill, and you can craft a rarer, better version with the same unique look. Now that you've acquired a rare item with a finite lifespan, then you're faced with a question. Do you use that rare gear as your daily driver, or keep it in your hangar as a trade asset? Or maybe display it in your hangar or base as a trophy item? Do you risk it in hostile space, or roll with something common until the job is done? Do you invest in crafting and selling rare gear at your remote base and become the person players fly to because you stock a look and quality nobody else can match? This is where crafting and identity connect. If paints and finishes exist as objects, then players can corner regional markets. They can supply factions, they can run limited drops. That's a business. The worry is that this adds grind or makes fashion a chore. It doesn't have to. The baseline should stay accessible. Common paints and blueprints can be plentiful and obtained through reputation rewards, buying from vendors, etc. Basic weapons can be replaced easily. The point isn't to punish players for expressing themselves. The point is to let rare looks and high performance be part of the economy rather than a toggled status. When there's a spectrum from commodity to collectible, everyone has something to do. New players get affordable options, and NPC vendors offer gear that gets people into the game fast until the player market develops. Traders get margins, crafters get reputation, thieves and recovery crews get targets. My god, that's a complete loop. Physicalized items also make content scale without devs hand placing every moment. An economy with scarcity and decay generates its own reasons to log in. Perhaps a newly spawned resource patch on a moon sees players scramble to acquire those resources. Or a new shop just opened with a crafter using higher grade materials that just made server best items. Maybe there's a rumor that a unique blueprint was looted off a remote space wreck in a contested system. You don't need a quest marker for any of that. The world itself becomes the quest. All that seems easy, right? Well, two things can break this vision. A global, perfect information market that essentially equalizes prices everywhere will erase regional identity. Keep trading local or at least frictional so that hauling and scouting matter. If there's a global bazaar, then the lowest price always wins. Raf Koster fought hard to keep a perfect information economy out of Galaxies, but in the end convenience won out and a little bit of the soul of the game died. I hope Star Citizen doesn't make that same mistake, but with websites that scrape in game information, it might be inevitable. The second trap is erasing loss. If rare items are always safe or always recoverable without risk, you remove the gameplay behind things like planning, escorting, or insurance. Give us tools to mitigate loss, not magic immunity. Tier 0 item recovery is creating a system where players are going to rage when they start having risk again. We need to rip that band-aid off as fast as possible. Getting that rare item back doesn't have to be instantaneous, and it really shouldn't be easy. But it should be possible. And that's all we need as players. There's also a presentation challenge to new players that aren't familiar with this design philosophy. Players coming from fast swap cosmetic games will expect instant style changes. The answer isn't to abandon physicalization. The answer is to keep common looks easy to access for personalization. We can have beauty and meaning at the same time. So when someone says baked-in skins are worse, that's because what we're playing right now is pretty far removed from the final state of items in the verse. Eventually, the look of an item should tell a story and evolve with that item when the world is built on crafting and scarcity and player agency. That choice is the key that unlocks a player economy worth fighting over. You can trace the line straight back to Star Wars Galaxies, only now we have the tech to make the dream less fragile, and the design elements to fix the gaps in the implementation. In part 2, we'll zoom out from items and talk about the society that forms around them. So don't miss that video. But I want to know, what do you think? Does the vision of unique items excite you? Tell me in the comments. If you made it this far, you're already part of the crew, so get subscribed and join us. If you want to support the channel further, there's a join button, Patreon, or my referral link to the impound. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the verse.